Hello and welcome to my channel. Bonsoir et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Muriel and welcome to my yearly wrap-up video in which I will look back on the books I read in 2019 and in which I will also talk a little bit about my reading plans for the coming year. Overall, 2019 wasn't a good year for me at all, so in all honesty, I'm quite glad it's over and done with, but as such, that also means that my reading year wasn't that great either, unfortunately. Numbers-wise, I only read about 58 books, which isn't that bad, but it's less than I read in 2018 and 2017, and less than I would have liked to be able to read, but of course that's partly because this year wasn't very good, so I think I went like a month or 2 months without reading anything at all, so that definitely doesn't help. My reading pace picked up again, like in November and last month, really. Conversely, I'm hoping it'll go much better in 2020. And in terms of the books themselves, well, I don't know, I wasn't really wowed by anything new that I read. On the other hand, I reread a few books, most of which I loved and enjoyed thoroughly, so that was nice. In fact, I reread a few books I hadn't really expected to reread, so that's positive, definitely. But I guess it didn't feel like 2017 or 2018, years in which I read amazing books, just a slew of amazing books. No, it wasn't like that at all. Most of the best books of 2019 were rereads, which there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but yeah. But I shall go into a bit more detail. I read a total of 2 fantasy series. I mean, one was a partial reread, which I'd already started in the month of December in 2018. It was A Song of Ice and Fire, quite simply. The other one was the Farseer Trilogy. I haven't done a review of this for my channel. I had originally planned on doing so, but then I realised the story wasn't fresh enough in my mind, unfortunately. I didn't feel comfortable making a review and having to look up all the information I would need to make it to my satisfaction. So, no. I'll wait for the day when I probably reread them and or decide to continue the series. See, the thing about The Realm of the Elderlings is when I went in Assassin's Apprentice, I didn't realise that was the start of a 16-book-long series. Oh crap! What did I get myself into? So yeah, I mean, you can enjoy the first trilogy on its own, from what I've gathered. And I did, I enjoyed it, it was a very good trilogy. But yeah, I'm not sure I want to continue or invest in the rest of the series because all of them are really chunky books from what I've seen. But yeah, it was very enjoyable. I liked the characters. I really loved the relationship between the main character, Fitz, and his wolf, which really reminded me of Jon Snow and Ghost, and obviously there are reasons for that I just won't go into here, but I really like that, and the way the magic works, it's actually pretty limited, which I think is a plus in that case. Of course, yeah, I said 2 fantasy series. I did reread another one. I reread the Earthsea cycle, which I hadn't planned on doing this year, but then since I was going on an Ursula LeGuin kick, with new books by her, I mean not recent books, but books I'd never read of hers, I decided, hey, why not? The books aren't too long, it'll go pretty quickly. And that was a really enjoyable experience. I mean, I didn't love the series as much as I, for example, loved The Left Hand of Darkness, or The Birthday of the World and Other Stories, or The Word for World is Forest, but I'm happy I reread them. And the rest were basically standalone novels, a few non-fiction books, though I didn't read many of them this year either. I read a few comic books or graphic novels, and a few items of graphic non-fiction. Overall, I mean, this year really was dedicated to rereads, I want to say. I mean, I reread some of the major books that marked my life as a reader and as a person this year, which I've done reviews for and which I've mentioned in my 27 years of reading video. So again, I'll mention them. Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence, which was a huge disappointment. That's the only one of all the rereads that I have a fundamentally different opinion of now, and which I don't really like anymore. Then, of course, Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, that was amazing. The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer, that was amazing. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. LeGuin, that was amazing. So, great reread. I read for the first time a classic of dystopian fiction, which I decided I simply must read. 1984 by George Orwell, which I didn't like so much, though I do recognize it's not a great novel, but it's an important novel. Let's just put it that way. It's a very important novel, and again, I did a review for that. Oh, right, and of course, how could I forget? Actually, no, I did read another fantasy series, which was partially a reread as well. I reread the Silmarillion, and read, for the very first time, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Then I also read Unfinished Tales, which just added flavor, context, world building, things like that, especially about the Second Age. And that was a terribly marred experience, unfortunately. The Silmarillion remains amazing, I love that, and The Lord of the Rings was disappointing, though still ultimately enjoyable, but tarnished by something bad that happened to me this year. And then I also read books from Ursula K. Le Guin, which I'd never read before. I was like, ooh, stuff by Ursula K. Le Guin I haven't read? Sign me up, right? So I read, again, partially a reread, The Wind's 12 Quarters, that was the reread, and The Compass Rose, which I'd never read before. I read Always Coming Home, which I actually really, really enjoyed. It was very different, but no. It was great, actually. I think it was really good, yeah. You know what? I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It was really good. I mean, science fiction masterworks editions, am I right? And then I read a couple of short stories by her, The Eye of the Heron, which was good, and The Beginning Place, which actually wasn't so good. That was surprising. Something by Ursula K. Le Guin which I didn't really enjoy that much. I mean, didn't really get what she was trying to do with that. It happens. And then, of course, I read The Power by Naomi Alderman, which was a total catastrophic flop for me. I thought it was very bad. I mean, it's right there in my library for now. I probably will get rid of it at some point in an unhaul. But I do these, like, cyclically after several months of reading. Basically, when I run out of space in my library, I review all the books I have. And then I just chuck those I don't want to keep. I mean, usually if I really hate a book, I'll just stuff it in a chest that I keep for that. But in this case, I don't know, it just fits in there, so it doesn't always make sense, right? On the other hand, I finally got into H.P. Lovecraft with At the Mountains of Madness, which I read like 2 weeks ago. And I will be pursuing that in the coming months. So that was very enjoyable. And in terms of non-fiction, well, one book really stood out. It was The Chalice and the Blade by Riane Eisler. That was an excellent book. I've talked about it in my 2019 non-fiction reading overview. I read a couple of extremely frustrating books about anarchism, a few books about feminism. Well, yeah, I did read a few classic texts of feminist theory, or at least partial texts. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf, and A Vindication of the Rights of Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. That about covers it, I think. If I had to name my favourites for 2019, first I'm going to go with the easy option and the obvious one, which are the rereads. Well, Lolita, yes. The Mists of Avalon, The Left Hand of Darkness. Masterpieces, all 3 of them. No question whatsoever about that. Then okay, technically I suppose you could put the Silmarillion with the Lord of the Rings up there. but it's kind of in its own weird category. So, I mean, it's a milestone. It's an important read of 2019, but it's kind of in a weird place. So I'll put it aside. And then in terms of new reads, the two books that stand out, honestly, Always Coming Home by Ursula K. LeGuin, and then a book which you won't find in a bookstore, A Compendium of Witches by Nataša Ilincic, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, which was a book funded through Kickstarter, written and illustrated by an Italian artist based in Scotland, who does very beautiful things, and I've also done a review for this. It's a book about witches, basically, but I mean, like, witches in the sense of shamans, wise women, pagan priestesses, alchemists, things like that, all somewhat based in historical archaeological research, and it's just beautiful, and it's something I really needed after I went through that bad thing in the summer. It was just very soothing for my heart and soul, so yeah, and it's one of the most beautiful art books I have in my library, honestly. Like, it's a gem. A true little shining gem. And I guess since I just remembered, I did also read Circe by Madeline Miller, which was very popular, from what I understand, and got rave reviews, and I just didn't like it that much. I don't think it's a bad book. Again, I did a review. It wasn't really a rant review. I did rant about the things that annoyed me in the book, but overall it's not a bad book. It was just very disappointing for me. I didn't think it was that great. But now I'm looking forward to 2020, and I'm going to change a few things. First of all, I'm upping my reading goal. I would like, ideally, to at least read 70 books. Yeah, I'm going to shoot for 70, and actually I might go over that since I've gone a little crazy and bought a lot of books. I'm stocked up for the next 3 months, I think. So 70 at the minimum. I think that should be doable. I doubt I will go back to my 2017 and 2018 formula, which was to read like 3 books a week. I mean, it's going to depend on what I'm reading. But yeah, probably 2 books a week. A novel and either graphic fiction or non-fiction, and a non-fiction book, or that's the big change for me. I'm going to try and get into short fiction, really, short stories. And I already have a couple of books of short stories, so I'm really going to try and combine that with like full-length novels. Some very exciting rereads planned as well. I'm going to reread all my Chronicles of Pan books, and we'll be doing a review of those, probably in 2 parts though, because I mean, that's 8 books I have in total. I will be rereading His Dark Materials, so I can then move on to La Belle Sauvage and The Secret Commonwealth, and I mean, there's a 3rd book that's supposed to come out in the Book of Dust trilogy, I believe, so perhaps this year. In the month of January, I will be rereading A Song of Ice and Fire, but I will be listening to it on audiobook so I can work on some unfinished drawings. And then, of course, another big one, I will be finally getting into Dune by Frank Herbert. Yes, I have the 3 first books. Actually, I think we do have the 5th one. We don't have the 4th one, The God Emperor of Dune, I think that's the title. I'm going to start with the first 3 and see where I go from there, because I also want to get into the Hyperion Cantos. I'm not sure I'm going to fit that in 2020. Of course, I mean, actually I didn't plan it that way, but since the Dune movie is coming out at the end of this year, perfect timing, right? But I didn't even plan it that way. But so yeah, I'm going to be reading Dune. And I'm going to read a slew of science fiction masterworks titles, because I want to get back into that classic science fiction. I also recently acquired a couple of fancy masterworks titles. So yeah, lots of standalone novels planned for this year. As far as series are concerned, it's going to be Dune, The Chronicles of Pern, and His Dark Materials / The Book of Dust, and A Song of Ice and Fire. But apart from that, I'm going to stick to those for this year, not try any other kind of series, but perhaps the Hyperion Cantos I have at the time. And I guess the other big change, I mean, it's not so much a big change, it's just I didn't know much about English language comic book series, apart, from like Marvel stuff and DC comic stuff, which, no offense, is not my thing at all. In fact, I'm kind of anti all those Marvel movies they're making. I think there's better stuff out there that could be adapted, personally. But no, I mean, I've read most of my graphic fiction was in French. I'm very familiar with the French/European comic book tradition. But I've learned about series of comic books in English, American, or British that aren't superheroes. So I'm really going to get into that. I've started Y: The Last Man, and I really need to get my hands on the other volumes now. I've read a series called Sex Criminals, which the title is super weird, but it's actually, I thought it was quite funny and very original, so I'm going to be continuing that. I've started a graphic novel series called Monstrous. The artwork is just amazing, and the story is already... it's just my jam, really. And I want to, since I started Y: The Last Man, Saga, that's the name of the series, Saga, which is a science fantasy epic story of two races having a child and their peoples being at war, and there are lots of different planets and there are lots of different creatures like unicorn peoples and TV-headed peoples and lots of weird stuff. It sounds like it's right up my alley, so I'll be getting into that as well. So that's a good thing, actually. I have my graphic fiction planned out for this year. And yeah, I mean, I think that covers it for 2020. For my booktube channel, obviously I will keep doing my monthly wrap-ups and the occasional book haul, the usual booktube fodder. I might do at some point a bookshelf tour. If anyone's interested, let me know, because I have a lot of books. I mean, these are just some of my shelves. I have like 7 more shelves over there. So that would be a lot of books to move and show individually. But I actually love watching bookshelf tours of other booktubers. So I might consider doing that, just for fun. And that's about it with regards to what I have planned for 2020. Just out of principle, I did make a book haul video recently, but you know what? I'm weak. I got 4 more books on sale. They weren't very expensive, and they were science fiction and fantasy Masterworks editions, and they're not too long. So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna get them. So I'll just show them here quickly. We have More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. Ringworld by Larry Niven. It's really hard science fiction, but it sounded fascinating, if only from a world building point of view, which I'm really into. So, looking forward to that. And then I got The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia A. McKillip and Methargo Wood by Robert Holtstock. Basically, both of these books I learned about on Rachel's channel, Kalanadi, and especially this one sounded very intriguing. So again, looking forward to reading all of this. This has a sequel. I mean, no, actually, this is the first one in the series, but I think the 2 most well-known titles are, well, the first one and the second, Levondis. So if I like this, I will definitely read Levondis, though I don't think I'm going to read the whole series anytime soon or ever, but definitely this one and probably Levondis. I'll just end by giving you a little peek at my TBR shelf. So all of these books will definitely be read in 2020. This pile is the January reading pile, though I've already taken a couple of books off of it, and like I said, I'll be listening to A Song of Ice and Fire on my computer. And, well, I mean, this is only part of what I'll be reading in 2020. Obviously, I haven't purchased all of my books yet, but yeah, I'm actually quite surprised at how quickly that piled up. So before I forget, well, I wish you all a happy new year. It's a bit late, but technically you have up until the 31st of January to do so, so here's me wishing you all a happy new year. I hope you all have a lovely day or evening as usual, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.